I make decisions based on value.
True.
That I can actually
bring to the table. Yeah.
Your bottom line probably. So when I try two ideas, zinagonga mawe. Unaumia, unarudi kwako kuu, unalia, unaamka siku moja juu kitu hizi. You can't keep it in yani. My dream is not to have 100 billion kwa account. Nikaanza hivi na check na hey, we made it. No, to create value. Nowadays we attract, we don't chase. Unaona, tunakaa tu. People come. So showing is believing.
So you primarily prove your concept.
You need to showbiz. Una show.
Not doing your biz. Good evening and welcome to the Late Night Business. My name is Ian Dennis and tonight we have a very interesting show lined up because I'm going to be having a conversation with a gentleman. He's literally made my childhood actually growing up, and it's quite interesting just having him next to me for us to have a conversation around music, around business and so much more. But before I get to introduce my guest, I'd like to let you know that you're here at the Capital Club, the place you need to be as an entrepreneur, because at the Capital Club you have access to a wide array of amenities. For literally you can spend your morning to evening at the Capital Club, from the gym to the spa to the meeting rooms, even to the bar. There's so much to do here at the Capital Club. The gentleman I'm speaking about and I'm about to host is known as Julius Owino, but you all know him as Juliani. He's a rapper, he's an award-winning rapper, he's an entrepreneur, and so much more. And tonight, we just want to figure out this other side of Juliani. Juliani, thanks so much for having come to the show.
Yeah, Santi, man.
It's quite interesting for me that to see you, because he literally made up my life growing up.
How old are you?
I'm 31 right now.
See me age mates.
Yes, but you started singing quite early.
Yeah, exactly. So people always say that at Yale.
Yeah.
But the truth is, I started early. So when we go high school, I'm just immediately after high school, and people are going, my age mates are going to Campo.
Yeah. You decided to, so you see
that's so always was also hey, my childhood, no, any age mate. So look, she's a problem in 5 to 10 years.
But you see, at least you had an influence in my life.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, but nice to see you.
Yeah, thanks.
Aunoni?
Yeah, tumekataa.
Na uzeeki?
Tumekataa.
The first question I like starting all my interviews, what exactly are you most grateful for today?
Just being me.
Interesting. So take us through you mentioned Ulianza, you started off quite early, you knew you wanted to do music, but just growing up, because I know you grew up in Dandora, what did you envision that you would be when you grew up, growing in that particular environment?
So Mokweli, when I was growing up, I didn't know what I wanted to be, because the alternative that we had at that particular time, and the people who were cool, who had everything figured out, who seemed like they had everything figured out, were thugs.
Yeah.
Younger guys who had money and whatever. So those are the guys who seemed like they figured it out. And the guys who wanted to go to Nadani, Wasomi and whatever, then they didn't seem like they want to join in, because even after high school and after university, you didn't have a job or whatever, you still idle. So there was nothing much. So, but for me, I think I was more observant of my environment. So I knew what was happening at any particular time. I knew I had thoughts of becoming something, but I didn't know what it was. So I feel like I had a disturbed childhood, because the environment didn't fit what was going on in my mind at that particular time. Yeah. But so until late, and at least nilijua I mean as a rapper, but all through I was just trying to figure out who I am, like every other guy trying to grow. So until actually, I would say I knew who I was when I was 30. 30? 30.
Interesting.
As a man, that's when I knew who I'm really, who I am. And the rest of the time, look at Trizex too. Everybody tells you you are a good rapper. Everybody tells you you should be a husband. Everybody tells you you should be a boyfriend. Everybody tells you you should be an entrepreneur. Yeah. Oh, so I didn't have any footing on who I was until later in life, I think.
Interesting. And maybe we can speak here and then we'll go back. So at 30, how did you come to the realization this is primarily who I am? Because primarily we say life starts at 40, but you're sort of like at 30, because I think in our 20s is literally a waste of time. But primarily, how did you know that this is...
Because I achieved most of the things I wanted to. So at 23, I already had my starlet that I wanted to.
You're already a star in a starlet.
A starlet,
There's a rapper.
And then by the time I was 27, I had a Benz. By the time I was 30, I had 2 cars. So based on what I was as a man, so when you're on a gari, that's what you use to measure how successful you are. But also at the same time, as an artist, I had grown, I traveled, I had albums, I had all these things going on for me. So I was like, there has to be more to this. So I was a really good rapper, a really good artist, but probably I wasn't the best person, version of a person that I think I wanted to be. So hiyo mvutano sasa ilianza hapo. Where now you're a good rapper, you're Juliani, but you're not Julius Owino. I hadn't figured out who Julius Owino is. It's interesting. So for me, that's happened kukakuwa na mvutano kidogo. So until I was 33, so that journey started when I was 30, trying to figure out who I am. By the time I was 33, it ends up to make sense. Relationship things happening. I'm firstborn.
Interesting. And you mentioned that you're successful, but you're not successful as a person. So you're successful in terms of your career, you're not successful as a person. How did you get to know that? Was it that your environment made so much noise that it came to this particular realization? Or were you did the stardom literally overtake who you are as a person?
No, because every time, so ulikuwa naambiwa, as an artist you just need to have a car, and then uko na gari. Oh no, as a big artist you need to have a Benz, and then uko na Benz. So he goalpost is gonna change sana as a man. So there's always something that you feel you want to work on. So I was like, so now you're telling me lazima ni international, nikuwe Panabol, ndio sasa mimi ndio Juliani. So the goalpost always ilikuwa change. So for me I was like, nah, there has to be something. So instead of looking outside, I started looking inside. At that particular time I was more into religion and Christianity and stuff like that. But I didn't answer that question, because the relationship to God ilikuwa of a provider, and when God says provide, not from a father relationship and whatever. So isn't it to sasa now, because I'm more into thinking about stuff and whatever, and then now started making sense. He comes up to open up now of what I should do and whatever. So I haven't said done in me but now it's more clear.
Interesting. So let me just take you back. You mentioned that growing up you didn't know what you wanted to be. It was not as clear. So just take me through that phase between you as a child and you growing up in Dandora. How was your upbringing like, and what were the aspects of your life that were shaping you in your formative years? Because you mentioned that in your environment everybody was just a thug, but you didn't know what you wanted to be, but you knew didn't want to be
everybody that. Even the CC tulikuwa thug.
Oh, it's open kwa thug.
Everybody, because and you can see that in the Kenyan society right now. Anybody that anafanya workplace always looking for a shortcut on how to get things done ama to be successful. Kila mtu always either atachimbia mtu ama and not relying on their skill and hard work. Unaona, so it's a Kenyan, I feel like it's a Kenyan psyche where we always trying to find the shortcut to success. All of us, first of all. So for us, like when you grow up and 18 people in 2 weeks, so your peers, then you go like, hey, maybe hata kama tukienda your route, it's not Mr. Kufa mapema, but you don't know any better, because that's all you know. And I was thinking about the other day, and I can still remember certain dead bodies on the street, because every week we're gonna a dead body. So it's so kawaida, either mtu amechomwa, alikuwa wanaiba kachomwa, ama mtu ameuliwa, those times were trying to so all those things that ilikuwa normal, normal, you're not supposed to grow as a young person, you're not supposed to grow in that environment. So those will inform later, and of course your parents trying to keep you right in the right. So religion became a big part of kukuambia where you should be, but by religion always inakupiganga tu kiboko, wewe ni mbaya.
Tenda kwa shetani.
The religion doesn't give you, doesn't tell you you're enough, because that's what I realized later with Christianity and Christ. You're enough when you go, that's why I died for you.
True.
So hizo vitu zote zilikuwa zinakaa, but now in high school somehow nilikuwa napenda poetry sana. So that's how my deskmate was part of uko fulani Momao. And then that's tulikuwa tunafika tu barabara tunaenda uko fulani Momao hapo, and that's how I began interest in music, because these guys are cool. They look like they know what they're doing. Being an artist gave you some identity. People identify like a young person most of the time. I don't know what they say. Msiote unaona wake into crime akiwa mtoi, akiwa in those environments, not because hawana do or poverty is because they're trying to find an identity. Because that's how wase wengi wako into crime wako 19 years old.
True.
Wale wana 19 year old 20. Wale wazee wale kabisa wakufangi. Wazee wakufangi. But our domo na waliwa sana because how they do it for identity, not because they need the money and stuff like that.
Interesting. And so growing up in Dandora, meaning that your parents were not well off, what were your parents doing back then, and what are some of the lessons that you observed from your parents that probably were instilled in you, or maybe what did you observe from them that you didn't want to be?
There's a big difference between Dandora, Mathare, na Kibera. Dandora was an established estate, na World Bank 1970s. So it was a little bit structured kidogo. Awishi kwa apart from areas fulani Kitale, Marigo, sijui wapi, awishi kwa mabati whatever ni hao.
Yeah.
Maybe choo mnashare huko na bafu na nini, but because it was mostly the servant I think, and then msala kwa na bailand na aneka kaploti nyo make dough. So that's how it was. So again, for me, I didn't know I was poor until maybe ilifika point I was buy a bike. Unaona best yako kuna bike kwa una bike. Christmas ikifika wasa wako na nguo mpya, ni amna nguo mpya. Unaona, so but you didn't happen to you when you're growing older and realize hey, kuna difference.
Yeah.
So but my parents were open to wear jibambe. Whatever, but of course disciplinary sana. So ulikuwa lazima follow aside.
Dad alikuwa anafanya nini?
He was in construction. So later now he traveled Afghanistan whatever, just because he was really good at tinga roads nini. My mom used to have a Marago hapo, Chapodondo Bandazi, so we used to have hapo nje. So we used to be the one tunafungua.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wasa nilikuwa nasapia chapo.
Tuko na make na kanda unga, hizo ni vitu.
Sasa chapo make chapo sana. Interesting. And from your parents, because I think we mentioned your mom used to do, what's it called? Your biashara ya chapo na nini? Ulila nini kutoka kwake? Maybe just looking back, what are some of the earlier lessons that you learned maybe from observing your mom and your dad going about their business?
When you're young, I don't think you're going to try to learn any lesson.
No, in hindsight.
Okay.
Yeah. What did you say primarily when you observe? Like, okay, maybe this thing I got it from maybe observing my mom and dad during this particular year.
Actually, I've never thought of it that so I should. I should go back and look at that from that point of view. Yeah, I never thought from lessons point of view. I just thought they were binadamu and they're trying to figure out life. So sijaifikiria in deep sana, so I think I should.
Interesting, yeah, maybe at least a challenge.
I should go back and say, hey, nime lessons gami nimelan.
And then now from what's it called, we're going to mention like in high school you realize you liked poetry because I come out na uko fulani. So how did you get now into the music industry, and how, because uko fulani were big back then, so how now did this Juliani come out of this particular mix from coming out of the
No, I was always just there. I was always in young, so nobody ever noticed who I was and whatever. So tuko tu hapo watu wengi because uko then when it's Mau camp.
Yeah.
So uko fulani is the Mombasa part and Mau is the Dandora. So we were in the Mau camp. So Mau si tuko tunakaa tu watu wengi tu wanapenda kurap, we seeing our heroes Keshaka kwa hapo.
Yeah.
But now later when my first performances were F2 because F2 ulikuwa unaambiwa, I mean unaweza rap kwa mtaa kwa neighborhood ukitoka chuo jioni unaenda unakaa kase unasikiza wasee wana rap.
Yeah.
Unashindwa kuandika because you don't know how to do it. It looks like something special only these guys can do.
Yeah.
But now got the courage to start writing, perform kwa mira. Over time now unajichallenge, end up present kwa watu, so nikaenda F2 nikaperform nilikuwa zangu kwa rasmi nifanya nini. But over time yani the more you do it iko na hiyo urge ya kuitaf. You just want to be on stage. You always, so I always wanted to be on stage. I always want to have new rhymes. I always want to impress people with how I write. So that's how I started doing F2. We started doing some small random gigs but F2 was like every Sunday, like religion. So every Sunday after church we go and F2 to perform. And then over time I grew. Of course people wananijua. Skill yangu increase as a rapper. And then hizo vitu zote zimekuwa gradual tu. Kitu imehappen hapa, people call it. eventually nikafika hapa. So I don't know, I can't say specifically I did this intentionally or did this intentionally, but everything just worked out.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And when was that particular point? Because I know you're doing it because you love to do it. What was the first money that you earned through music? Because I know you're doing it as you like to do it, but at what point did you now get your first good gig or good money that you can actually get to remember? And what did it mean to you then that primarily enabled you to get into this particular trajectory?
I mean, the first time I was ulikuwa show.
Yeah.
Niaje tuendeni mnalaje tukajeshi. But when somebody say niaje kuna hii show nikasema it's a come but hatuna fare. Jamaa akasema usijali hata tulikuwa tunakam kukulipa. Tukalipwa 3k nikafurahi. Nikafurahi. So hiyo siku nilipwa 3k nikarealize kumbe it's worth something. Whatever I'm doing is worth something. But you don't know, you can't tell why or what, because when you mtu Dandora, you don't know what way side, you don't know people who book people, you don't know all those things. So but I realized if I'm really good at what I do, then I'll always attract the right people. Or you'll always be referred to.
True.
Or when other artists perform, Keshak wanna perform, they want you to be close. Kuna msana rap wale we are mentoring and stuff. So that's how I became so good at music and rap that now I started getting people interested to call me for stuff. As a rapper, so 3k, 5k. And then later now when I okoka kwa church unapata 100 bob, unapata envelope inakaa big, kumbe ni 50 bob zimejaa na ni so tano. Ilikuwa na niudhi mbaya, but so the more you urge ya kuangalia watu na kuperform na present kitu, because finally I found something that I was really good at. So work on it day. So weekdays when I'm at my mom's kwa hoteli, that's what I do, right?
So unaweza chapo kiandika rhymes.
Mbaya. Unaona, so the more I perform, the better I become, and then now people started asking for, can we pay you this? Can we pay you this?
Interesting. And primarily this started off as something of interest, and then now you can realize you can be paid. At what point now did you realize this is primarily what I want to do for the rest of my life, and this is primarily what I can becomes my breadwinner?
Because I wasn't good at anything. I didn't see myself good at anything at that time.
Did you go to college, by the way?
Wapi? Nilifanya computer packages
after form 4.
Hizo after form 4 na mambo fanya packages. So nikafanya na hiyo ni vizuri, yani ndio nilipia. So but because when we were doing music wasn't paying, like when there was no a career. It was only a few people who seemed like they were making money. But since tulikuwa more music, our content wasn't as
it was in early 2000s, right?
Yeah, so our content wasn't tunaongea kuhusu serikali, sijui tumenyanyaswa. So people don't want to listen to that. It's not raha scene, so and it's so complicated as it's poetry. So it wasn't as lucrative as people wanted to be. So I think I'm one of the first generation artists who started making money that way.
True.
That kind of money, not chukua hivi unapata nikaa ni illegal, nikaa drugs, unapata ndo imekunjwa kwa mkono hivi ni kama
usanii hapo pesa yake.
Msanii unapata ndo hivi na perform. So now we started so actually come to think of it, I was one of the first artists to now package it to mainstream as a business and stuff like that. The rest of the people are doing it as a entertainment. So now I mean because I'm observant as a person, so I always want to do better. So I always want to do something better. I think this I should be. So I put myself out there to try it. So somehow it worked. Because the way it was set up before, naungeenda mbali na muziki, because it was all based on having the newest song. So if you don't have a new song, then you're not relevant, then you're not paid.
Interesting. And in the height of music, I know you made so many big deals, but one I remember, I think was it Kisima? Baba, I think you won, is it $1 million or?
Yeah, Kisima.
Yeah, just Kisima.
Nilipatwa dollars hata hasa walinicheza by the way.
$1 million ilikuwa
wacha nifungue mroho.
Walikuwa how much?
Hata sikumbuki, but it's close to walinipatia installment, but it was mine. It was the first time they were giving money. And I was against Jaguar na sijui nani mwingine. So I assumed hiyo ilikuwa because got me tumezoea industry where there are people who iko set for. So I was surprised to win that money. And then of course I won the $1 million, and then nikalipa installment, nikaanza kujua kumbe mimi si mchezo.
Yeah.
Because previously, before that, of course, I did my first album, Mentality, where I was signed. My second album was Pulpit Street, which now won Basho Camp and everything is won most of the awards that day. So ilinipatia moral sana that now people are starting to see who I am. I know hela iko nachezwa.
Yeah.
So hizo ndio vitu zilikuwa zinanipatia moral, because now that's when I started earlier to do perform live. So people noticed that I performed live. So walinipatia uzito kidogo than a normal artist, because I didn't see myself as a normal artist at the time. Because all normal artists always atoka kitambo wako comfortable in their new song.
True.
So for me, I was always coming up with new stuff, new lyrics, new whatever every time.
Interesting. So we're going to take a short commercial break, and then after that we're going to find out how did money change him and what exactly some of the trajectory that got him into business. So I'll see you after the break. So welcome back to the show. Before we went on a break, Juliani was taking us through how exactly he grew up through the heights, whereby even there's a point he got 1,000,000 shillings. Now, because some of your time, you have some value in you. And having grown up, what's it called, in an environment where you didn't have abundance, so here you are now, through your craft, now you have abundance. What did money now mean to you at that particular phase? And what are the lessons you learned about money?
I think we have to correct kidogo tu hapo, because because unaishi kwa hiyo environment, so people think you don't have abundance. So because the definition of abundance,
the financial,
so we only look at the financial aspect.
True.
But it was so rich when it comes to communities. It was so rich when it comes to experiences, and it contributed a lot to who I am, because it's beyond just me in a new environment. It's an indicator of where the country was. Story mob. But abundance financially, it was for people to start showing value that, hey, we value this. So ikafika point sasa, now you get to decide how much you can get paid. Unastuka tu tupatie 300k na ucheki, unaona, and then unaona venye mseta react, sawa ndio, and then that becomes the rate that year.
So unashtua tu.
Unashtua ana nini, and then now you use it. Some even you did it for free because you're trying to build something around it. For me, I used to do, I wasn't paid as much because nilikuwa naambia, say, hey, me, as long as you may sort out band, niko sawa, because I really wanted to perform with the band. And kwa roster, no artist was performing the band, so they were specifically getting the band and equipment just for me to perform. So kufanya sound check, unafanya sound check hapo, unaambia msee, you have to do sound check early nini, sasa hizi ni gani hizi, ama mafans lazima ndio wingie stage, lazima ufanye ma sound check, guitar sasa anajidai professional sana, but over time that's changed. So for me, I always, because I was young then, I always feel like I can push. True. Because I don't need much to survive and do any. But of course, mapedo zilianza sasa, now unajiona wewe ni brand. Unaona mnapiga mapicha, mnapose, mnango mpya kila time. Watu wanakuambia wewe ni artist, wewe ni brand, so ufai kuna panda mat. Unaona, so hizo ndio vitu dynamics kana kuchange. Otherwise me niko like, hey, how do I push my art?
Or for you to say about pushing the craft?
For me, how do I use this and do this and do this? So even after my first record deal, let me do everything for myself. Because I always wanted to push the boundaries and stuff. Even right now, so niko naambia msee, yani siwezi kwa tu mnanijua mimi ni Juliani na mimi ni artist mbigi. Natumia Uber. Why do I have to have a band? No, it doesn't make sense, because I'd rather use that money to do
other things.
So you know, sasa hizo ndo struggles because it happened your time. Where you're so popular, but now people demand that tukienda ku deal, wanakwambia usiende na gari in a beat. You have to look the money you're asking for. So you need pressure unnecessary. So most of us got cars and whatever just to show that
you have cars
and that we are big brands. But the truth is, value can be measured differently.
Interesting. And so at the height of music, you've done it, whatever, you've won awards and all that, but also something about you that many don't know. You've also had this interest in running businesses, being part of startups and the likes. What was the first business that you set up yourself, and why did you go ahead setting it up?
My first, the first thing I did when I was growing, so nilikuwa nataka kuget dough ya kwenda kutafuta kama fares za kwenda F2. So a shopkeeper fulani alikuwa hapo anaitwa Njuguna. So Njuguna alikuwa anauza mayai, everything wholesale. So nikamwambia aje, si nitakuwa nachukua mayai naenda na kuuzia kwa
mayai
hizi mayai.
Oh, trays.
No trays. Nilikuwa tu mayai kabla kuku itoke that. So hiyo I go around nauzia say siku trade kwa 35 bob I think. Unaona, so nilikuwa na hizo ndo time, so I always wanted to be self sustaining na nisitegemee mtu ama I don't become a burden to someone. But now with what we're saying, with now entrepreneurship and what we're saying now, ilikuwa ni based na because nilikuwa naenda na nilikuwa na ma concepts when I was having meeting na corporates. I'm still now ni aje Juliani one. So mimi niko na ma story sana. So mimi nakam na present idea how I think we can use my brand to sell your product. And these are the ideas. Wasa wanashtuka. Because I want to simple. Tuambie unataka dongapi? Utasimama kwa billboard, utafanya TVC, utafanya nini? That's what they want. So it can frustrate mbaya.
Oh, because they're not listening to you.
Nobody was listening. So I was trying to tell them, this is how you engage the audience, this is how you do whatever. So you umeniita unataka kwa industry yangu. So I know a little bit more than
you.
So if you want me to stand kwa billboard, so I realized it cost a lot of deals then. But the few that got it, I got to do a lot. So from US Embassy, Google, to World Bank. So I got to work with people because I was adamant about how I think things should be done. But then, because the psyche around art, if you're hot, maximize on the opportunities. So I'm like, no, I'll be hot. The older I get, the better I become. So I don't make decisions based on hotness. I make decisions based on value.
True.
That I can actually
bring to the table.
Your bottom line probably, or your brand value if you work with me. So so I started having ideas on how to do. The first one was more, but I had conversation with Bob. What does you top management wakapresent the idea fulani tukafanya presentation hapa. I had a meeting with Fanisi. Fanisi eventually the CEO then couldn't give me money, but he gave me $1 million shillings later to invest in an idea I had called RPG. So all through me niko na trisex to ideas and what can work. But I wasn't getting through. So I decided, let me just try on my own ideas. So niko na try two ideas, nagonga mawe. Unaumia, unarudi kwa kuku, unalia, unaamka siku moja juu hiki kitu hizi. You can't keep it in your hand. So always that's how I've been experimenting.
And there's something also interesting that you did last year, that you launched the Nairobi Startup Week, which I found very interesting. What exactly was it called, brought about this particular idea, and why did you go about executing it? So
for me, I see things in. So we have to always have negotiating balls. No. So negotiating balls inamaanisha if I come to you nianze to negotiate naye, I have to give you vehicles that I can use to accomplish what you want to accomplish in your brand. So meaning like I can give you Taka Bank, I can give you Mamsani, I can give you me, I can give you Juliani Jeshi, but I can give you But in having vehicles, you have to create communities within those vehicles. So for me, one of the communities I felt like ilikuwa Aiko in the mainstream space, and they are doing amazing stuff in the startup culture, the startup space. So startup ilikuwa ni wanaongea tu amongst themselves. They're always doing these hackathons, wanaongea amongst themselves, so magiko wako tu hapo. So how do you open it up to now the public? So I was like, you guys are doing amazing stuff, but nobody knows about it. Can I use my stage and my name to bring attention to what you guys are doing? So that's why we started the Nairobi Startup Week. Because pia mimi niko in a startup space, but nobody didn't like the problem I always had. People didn't believe that you can actually build something. So you always have to be proving yourself. So I'm gonna actually build a community around it. So for me, vehicles, I create vehicles and build communities as vehicles to negotiate in any space.
Interesting. And also one of the startups that we actually set up is Stacker Bank.
Yes.
That's primarily around what's it called? Getting garbage. Maybe we can just
Waste management. So sahii tunaita resource recovery.
Yes.
Sio waste management.
So Juliani will grow up Dandora, kuna the biggest place ya takataka, so can decide to into takataka.
No, because when I wanted to buy the land where the HC sits, the property.
Yeah.
And I didn't have money. So I needed a down payment na kila kitu. But I needed to have extra. One, have more money to build the institution, the space, but also to just as a marketing. So nikakaa chini na kumbuka nilikuwa Karen Blixen. Nimekaa hivi na meditate. Unaona sometimes
Karen Blixen.
Karen Blixen nimekaa hapo na macolonizer around, unaona. So nikakaa tu hapo I was trying to figure out how do I do this and then you can eat. Why not use what you already have? And the only thing I have is waste.
Yeah.
And I remember I called some Gishuru Kambia, Buddha, hii idea niko nayo, because we had waste but we didn't know how to. So tulikuwa naongea na corporate na friends na naambia, hey, I want you to give me money to support to build this community, but ukiwaambia from tusaidie, nobody was listening.
Sure.
But if you give them data around, actually we consume your product, eventually your product end up in this space. So we started collecting data, takataka ziko hapo, profiling the waste around in Dandora.
So this company,
scratch cards, carrying it, Bidco, hizo takataka ziko hapo tunaziprofile, alafu create data around it and then to the project kwa public. Because maybe kuna kitu hapa. So maybe you'll give you get your attention because now we are talking about things you care about. So that's how Taka Bank ikakua. And then now over four years, I started I've done different versions of it, but now is when it makes sense kidogo, because initially it was financially intense.
And you used to finance everything. You financed everything by
even now, we finance. So nikikauka nimekauka na kaa tu. Alafu but uzuri ya kudu vitu you think extra. So I started thinking extra and how to build a business around it, because the culture of your startup ni ukiwa na idea unaenda pitch
investment and all that stuff.
So me every time niko na number kwanza siwezi pitch venye nataka pitch na shanks juu lazima nifanye deck. Now you don't even understand the business, it's just an idea. You know, so over time now as we build, partnerships started coming, people creating attention and stuff like that.
Interesting. And there's something that you've mentioned that you I've always had these thoughts, always getting to try out different particular businesses. Do you find it harder that you also people know you as a musician, for you maybe to going to knock some corporate doors in terms of some of the businesses to get access, or did you find was it easier for you in terms of knocking some doors?
No, nowadays we attract, we don't chase. No, tunakaa tu. People come. The reason why is because you spend so much energy trying to prove something. Now on a context probably. On a context where you come from, why this idea, they can only visualize based on where they are. So it's not their fault as such. So showing is believing,
so you primarily prove your concept.
You need to showbiz. Una show.
Love to get biz.
At the end of showbiz, So for me, I was like, it made it easier for me to try it, do it, for me to understand it. And the same concept we do with music. When I come up with a song, but I have to perform it to the public. And then based on their reaction, I'll know the direction I am. So it's the same concept you're building artists is building business in my opinion. So, but appetite yangu ya risk si ni big sana, so I don't mind risking things.
Interesting. And mentioning that your appetite for risking is very high, so meaning that when you feel very high, or when you fail, higher. What's the biggest failure as a you've experienced, and how do you handle failure yourself?
I mean, we fail maraka 50,000.
What's the biggest failure? Like, do you want to maybe to the last savings or anything, and then
first of all, I'm not savings, easy. Sinanga savings.
Already saved by God.
I'm saved. No, because even Juicy, when we did the concert at KCC,
Uh-huh.
I spent almost $500,000 on it. I didn't get the money back. But it's the why you're doing it is, for me, is the most important. If the why is clear, the rest should be resource too. The money is just a resource. The only different side kidogo ni now family.
Yeah.
Unaona, so hiyo tu ndio shida. Otherwise ingekuwa mimi man solo tu hapo ningekuwa na mimi naweza lala kwa room kai na niko tu sawa. Unaona, like I'm really, because I feel it's a privilege to even have these ideas, or even to have the stage and the voice and the name that I have. It's a privilege. It wasn't planned. It wasn't my strategy. So I feel God amenipatia udeni. So if I don't use it, He will not give me anymore. So how I handle failure is, for me, if I understand my why, naweza jiliwaza na ngumi kwa ngumi hivi na jiliwaza na hiyo, as long as I understand my why.
Interesting. Yeah, something very interesting that I also came across, that you're an Eisenhower fellow.
Yeah.
Let me just tell us, because Engineer took you, how do you say it and how did you get yourself
Eisenhower.
How did that come across?
So Eisenhower is one of the presidents for US. So he started after, of course, aliacha presidency. He wanted to raise leaders.
Yeah.
So I think wakaanza program around leadership. So years later, in 1960s, if I'm not wrong. So in Kenya there are 50 Eisenhower fellows. So I'm glad
You're part of it.
I'm glad to be part of it. 2023 I was one of them.
Yeah.
So I was selected as a cohort, a global cohort. So people from South Korea, China, nani tukamit pamoja. So the whole idea ni, what do you want to do? And who would you like to meet to help you figure out what you want to do?
Yeah.
You already know who you are, you're an artist, you've tried these things. Kwa hivyo hizo mavitu zote nimefry nini, people notice.
Yeah.
Hata kama is not, you don't have the financial benefit immediate, people always notice, and that's how I've gotten to do a lot of things. Because msiana kuitia, kuja, kuna hii opportunity, I think you will fit this.
Yeah.
So, and then I ended up being one of the cohorts. We were there for 6 weeks. I have a schedule for every day. I just meet 3 meetings minimum.
Every day in the States.
Day.
Yeah.
And
to meet
whoever you scheduled to meet.
Who's the most interesting person you met during that particular period?
Because so initially, before I was prepped by the previous fellows who went and they did some stuff around trying to get me to understand how to. So, but what I decided to do is to go empty and not to come. Even though mtu niko mimi kwa list yangu nilikuwa nataka nione meet Jay-Z, meet nani, kaambia hapo kijana wewe tulia. Unaona, so my expectations were not high. I was just open. So I was like always naingia kwa meeting blank. Because you have to prep questions and whatever. So of course I knew who I'm meeting and why I'm meeting them, but conversations zilikuwa zinataka kwa something else. So we meet USLA, nimeenda sijui Michigan University, nikamit sijui manzi alikuwa PA wa Bloomberg, nikamit sijui nani huko government, nikaenda Chicago. City Council, nikaenda in New York, sijui watu wangapi. So I was everywhere. Because I was trying to gather information around Taka Bank na DHC, how to build communities, but also how to do waste and how everybody else is doing around waste. And then I realized kumbe pia hata kuna the same shit ile watu wako nazo. So ikavalidate sana idea yangu ya Taka Bank, even to do it more, because them they haven't figured it out yet pia.
So probably also
so kumbe mimi nilikuwa tu ahead kidogo in my time, and it takes time. Otherwise ukiangalia New York when wana take care of their waste, Chicago, whatever, when I take care of their waste, they're still struggling also.
Yeah, even I'm seeing right now everything that's going on in New York, in terms of
it's just crazy. So I think we had our idea validate. Nitoka hapo niko more confident about who. And then pia watu wa nje wana switch on faster. Huku Kenya lazima ufanye mzee. Presentation ka 50, unaona, like so. They get it so fast. Unaona, so it validates and
it validates the business.
The idea, even you, it affirms who you are. Like even when the last dinner, I was asked to be the one to speak out of the 25 cohorts. Nikaongea ufala yangu hapo yote, but it affirms
what exactly it is.
Who you are, unaona. So, and then I realized when I came here, I was like depressed for like 2-3 weeks.
Why?
hiyo high and then low.
Uh-huh.
And then now naanza lazima nianze kupiga kaguni ki explain and say how why this is a good idea, because hapa kila mtu anaambia tu
Yeah. Oh, then it, yeah.
and then nakuja huko nasema tena lazima nianze tena.
Yeah.
Unaona, so
interesting. There's something that also came across on your page. You'd written some time back, and I was talking to you earlier, and I called Mr. Howe. You'd written about some of the manifestations that you hold. I think it was in 2022. You'd written, I want to do 10,000 jobs and 10 tons daily for Taka Bank. My Msani, I want to do 100 venues and 100 events weekly. And then you also written you wanted to have 1,000 people to help 1,000 people through the road to consciousness and also make 100 billion.
Nitumie hiyo ni kwa sasa please.
Umesahau, I'll send it to you. But maybe just
nitumie tena please.
So maybe just looking back, because these are some of the manifestations that you hold in terms of maybe the 100 billion. How far? What's it called? What's the biggest high you've had with regards to financial success, and what exactly are some of the lessons that you hold through this?
So if you look at it from 100 billion per account, you will miss the point. For me, it's value, based on value. How do you measure value? So if I was to look back at when I started music to where I am now, nimesurpass your value. And I'm not talking about money account. I'm talking about the networks I've built. I'm talking about how far my music has gone. I'm talking about even the money people have paid for me to travel the world many times over. So if you look at that value, can you because we never take accountability of our time and our efforts and whatever. So you don't gonna. So I am already that. As long as I can imagine it already, I am. So the only difference is it takes time for it to come to pass. My dream is not to have 100 billion account and can't even check and hey, we made it. No, to create value
Over 100
worth.
billion. Yeah.
So inamaanisha how many, that's jobs, that's that existence yangu ama jina yangu inagetwa say jobs, inagetwa say opportunities. Consciousness the same thing. The things that I've learned about kituka breathing exercises, ama eating right, so breathe lazima sikuli hivi kula hivi. These are things that have helped me. So I want to share that with people. Unaona. Vituka hizo zote tu yani. So I want to equate my time since I started this stuff and post. And unfortunately numbers those give inaipatia face na mguu na mkono when you use numbers. When you just say whatever is an offers. So also those numbers are there for me to measure my
your
efforts
and your progress.
And but the value 100 billion a billion already we have achieved in my opinion.
Interesting. And just looking back, because you've achieved success quite high, very early in your life. You mentioned you got to know yourself at 30. You've set up various startups. You've gone through the world. You've met the who's who, and you're still in a conquest to literally grow yourself. And you're not yet 40. Are you 40 yet?
Next year.
Next year. So you're not yet 40. So you've done quite early. So looking back, what would you say are some of the biggest lesson that you can actually share out of your life and your experiences that anybody watching this can actually learn from you?
First of all, people don't want to listen. So hata nikiwaambia hata sikiza until they pitia. No, until they pitia kitu. Binadamu wana ufala sana. Until people go through something, ndio I get. It's the same as music. When people listen to my music, later I'm secure then I'm hit. So me niko patient kidogo na hiyo. I don't have haraka ku teach wase. For me the most important the attempt is enough for me. I don't need to succeed.
So long as you're tempted.
As long as ilikam kwa akili yangu usiku manane nikaamka nikaidu. I put my money, my time, my everything to do it. For me that's because we always want to be judged by I was thinking niko naangalia story ya WeWork. The startup WeWork, Facebook, Amazon. Anybody that you think about. Our standardized ways of measuring success is not the same na how they measure it. Unaona, msea ku make profit until 10-20 years later of the business. Sisi after msea kupatia loan ya anataka next month lazima umtumie. Uanze kulipa. As an investor. Unaona, so mimi niko stack your pressure yako, unaona. So for me I have a whole lifetime to achieve what I need to achieve. Alive or not. But for me the most important is attempt. As long as I'm privileged to have the idea in my mind, tomorrow morning I'll wake up and make it possible. And that's what I've done with everything I announcer KICC juu na mapepo na tuchapa and I said I only want 100 people. You made it happen. Unaona, I said I wanted to do this, so the attempt for me is the most important kwangu.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. And just as we wrap up, I have 10 quick fire questions. So whatever that comes to your mind, you can answer that. Money or happiness?
None of the above.
Are you an introvert or an extrovert?
Introvert.
Would you rather travel would you rather travel to the past or to the future?
Now, me and for now.
Are you more of a thinker or a doer?
Doer. Zote. All the above. Naweza kaa hivi nifikirie alafu nijichoche.
What do you think the meaning of life is to you?
Life haina meaning. It's not that important venye unataka ikue. Life is so important hivi.
What scares you?
Nothing.
How long does it take for you to get ready?
5 minutes.
At what age do you want to retire?
Never.
What's been your best age?
Now.
And the final question I'd like to ask you, what's the greatest risk you've ever taken?
Waking up in the morning. Bro, by the time fike hapa umetoka home, hiyo ni risk.
Interesting.
Yeah, waking up in the morning is a risk, bro, because at that particular time, everything else that you did jana doesn't matter. Everything you're going to do doesn't matter. It's today.
That's a very interesting perspective.
Yeah.
My goodness, I really appreciate your time. With your time, I keep yourself fast. You need to do a part 2. I've been to delve into so much, but I think that's been Juliani. That's the other side of him. He's the founder behind Mimesani, Dandora Hip Hop City, Taka Bank, Nairobi Startup Week, and so much more. He's still an artist. He's married. He has a child. So there's so much that he's actually going to do. It's quite an interesting time to actually having spent with you. As we closed last week, we won TV Host of the Year. So in my mind, we got hit too. Some of us, Wali to the Rao. Who's
People's Choice
laughing now?
wapi?
Yeah, by People's Award, by People's Choice Award. So
Mbona kuniuliza si many people?
I don't know, maybe I'm just gonna join. I'm going to know people. But thank you so much for having watched the show. As always, coming to you from the Capital Club, the place you need to be as an entrepreneur. And your good friend was actually, Bob Collimo, was actually a patron here at the Capital Club.
Yeah, he got me here first some years back. Aliniingiza hapa, akanintroduce kwa watu, tukaenda around huko.
So you're quite familiar about this place.
Niko familiar na hii place.
Kama Juliani anajua hii place, pia unafaa kujua hii place. So thanks so much for having watched the show. My name is Ian Dennis. As always, it's a late night business. Until next time, I'll see you right here on KTN Home.